before the San Francisco quake. That was it. It was his drop-dead, smoking-gun harbinger, and he knew that that big quake was coming because he was monitoring that geyser, and it went nuts. Now, fast forward from 2004 to today, and we've got a lot more sophisticated information out there. But you got to know how to dig it, how to go into it, how to find it, and if you really got some chutzpah, you share it with the world. And tonight you're going to hear a man who does exactly that. And I'm welcoming Dutch Sense, YouTuber, to the show. Dutch, welcome to Planet X Forecast.
Thank you.
Planet X Special Report, excuse me.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me on, and it's a true honor to get to talk to you on the air. And I hope we can get into some really interesting topics tonight. A lot's going on, and you know what's going on today, so if you want to get into it, we can get right into it.
Oh, man, let's just get right into the dish, you know what I mean? No holds barred tonight, Dutch. No holds barred. And first off, I want to let you know that, and this is a call out to all the folks at our planetxtownhall.com. And we've got a large community out there, and it's just growing really fast. And the one thing I was really surprised was when, you know, the request to invite you on the show came from the town hall. And when I announced it, everybody's just really jazzed and excited. I had no idea so many people were following you and so appreciated your work. And once I started getting into it, I can see why. You lay it right out there. It's really clean, and you let people decide for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a tremendous 6 months for me. I started making videos on YouTube approximately 6 months ago, maybe a little bit over. And it's ironic that you mentioned Birkeland and animals, because that's how I started. There was a tremendous die-off of animals around the world. Millions of fish washing up on one shore, shores lined with crabs over in the UK, birds falling out of the sky all over the country. And several of us started to take note of that. Being the animal lover I am, I really was concerned. And that's when I started to put out the videos. And that's how I started to pay attention to radar anomalies that I used to dismiss as just anomalies. And it just so happens that the main animal death story, the one where all these birds died down in BB, Arkansas, and fish washed up in a creek down there by the hundreds of thousands, it turns out there was a strange radar signature above the area the night before. And so in the process of looking at the radar signatures in BB, Arkansas, I saw my first weather modification ring is what I call them now, my first Haarp ring. And so over the course of 6 months, I've had 12 million viewers and 30,000 subscribers. I've been on the news. I've traveled across the country. And I'll break this on your show, is that now the first 5 episodes are done on a TV show that's going to be airing on 3 major networks, international networks. I can't say which ones yet, but that's been finalized, and it's going to be at least 64 episodes. So that's going to be if all things go well. So it really has mushroomed up, and the reason it's mushroomed up is because the number of incidents has increased exponentially, and there's been no one there to actually tell anyone, because everyone gets their news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, et cetera. Some people think they're being slick and getting it from AP or Reuters. Well, there's no difference. They censor the news. They only bring out some news that is disaster prone, and they control that news indefinitely. So Fukushima, for instance, when Fukushima happened, they first beat the fear drum on Fukushima like no other. Okay, they had Anderson Cooper over there standing there with a Tiger counter, and they had Sanjay Gupta explaining the fallout effects of radiation. And then within a week, they're not talking about it at all. And
that's right. So, you know, I remember Sanjay Gupta. He looked like a nervous cat in a room full of rocking chairs. He didn't like being there. He understood, and he wanted to get the heck out of it. And but before we go a little further, I just want to say to my listeners out there, folks, if you're in the virtual chat room, Susan Richards is our moderator there. And if you have a question for the guest, make sure it gets to Susan. We'll do our best to get that answered, and our chat room rules are real simple. Hey, cowboy, hang your shooter at the door, be nice to Miss Kitty, and you'll have a good time. And if not, you will leave the premises feet first. And for those of you who want to call in and talk with Dutch, well, we've got Bill Zam running the switchboard, and his middle name is Thor's Hammer. Get my meaning? Call, be nice, be constructive, and you'll get on, I guarantee. Now, with that, what I'd love to do right now, Dutch, right off the top, because this is the thing that just, when I looked at your work, I mean, this glued me, really glued me. And this is this venting that you detected northeast of Los Angeles. Now, for those of you listening, on the episode page for Blog Talk Radio, I created a playlist with the current videos that Dutch has done on this. And so you can follow up on those later on after this show and actually see how he presents the work. And it's really important. And so just because this is a real current event, so Dutch, take us from how did you find this venting and, what was the process you went through?
Okay. This is just a recent story for those of you who are just tuning in. It just started on Saturday. And what happened, I was on radar looking at a weather modification ring outbreak that was occurring in the Midwest, and I noticed a signature pop up over Southern California only for one frame, and then it cuts off. They cut the frame, and it said missing panel on my radar display, and that intrigues me, of course. I have to go look. So I went to the actual NexRad site, which is a government site. You can go pull up the radar, look at a current image loop of the area. And when I did that, I saw that there was literally what I thought it was a wildfire at first. In the first video I put out, I said, uh-oh, looks like there's a wildfire in Southern California. And I went over to LA News. I checked all their sites, NBC, CBS, ABC, all the local news sites, and there was nothing about a fire up there. And so I decided to go on Google Earth and see what was there to see if there were any structures or, what could be burning. And when I put in the coordinates, it turned out it was a volcanic lava field, completely black still. It's still, rough rock with just intermingled, sparsely placed grasses. And I said, oh, my goodness, what is this? Of course, it wasn't, oh, my goodness. It was actually, what is going on? And so then I looked more into the area, and I found out it was called the Pisgah Crater Area, and that's spelled Pisgah. And it's all volcanoes. It's nothing but volcanoes right there, and it's the Mojave Desert, which is sand. There couldn't be anything there burning. So then, of course, I have to go pour over the weather charts and see if it's raining there. And you can pull up the precipitation stations there. You can pull up humidity levels, and none of that matched for any kind of precipitation buildup in the area. You're talking Mojave Desert. And
right.
So, long story short, I went and pulled the seismic charts in the area, and you can look at all these different seismographs placed all around California. And in the area there's magma harmonics, which is a long period of rumbling shown on a seismograph. And then it cuts off to a baseline, just straight flat line, and then it kicks back up again to heavier lines. And so you put all that together. I put all that together, and I said, okay, there's an uptick in activity around the world, everywhere where there's a volcano. Mount Etna just erupted. Mount Lokan just erupted twice. You've got Sakurajima over in Japan erupting every day. So I looked in the area. I put two and two together. I put out the video. And within a day and a half, last night at 2 in the morning, the USGS issued a press release response to my videos. And they referenced the YouTube user who pulled up Google Earth. And, it's me who they're talking about. And they said that it wasn't a hoax. Okay, well, I appreciate that. And it was a misinterpretation of the data, according to John Eichelberger, who's the senior volcanologist for the USGS. And their spokeswoman, Clarice Ransom, said that there's no threat in the area. That was this morning at 2 a.m. Now, it vented twice since then. Since they put that statement out, it has vented twice with a huge, you can go on right now. If you guys are sitting, if you're listening live, you can go right now and look it up, and you will see over the last 12 hours at station EYX in Southern California, a massive plume that erupted off the same exact area, and there's no cloud cover. You can turn on visible cloud. It's still daylight. You can see there's nothing. It just erupts out of the ground. And then, same time as those two vents are going, there's a 6.0 that occurred in Baja, California, right south of California, right at the Mexico border. And so a huge earthquake, venting occurs, and here's the USGS saying it's a thunderstorm.
What? Say what? Thunderstorm?
Right. That's what their official explanation is. If you go read the article all the way through, they said that it was a misinterpretation of the data, and it was most likely a thunderstorm. Now, it's just a laugh because it means they didn't watch the other 3 videos that I put out, because I show the precipitation, I show, what it could be, what it couldn't, and it's actually laughable because of what I've gone through with the USGS in the past. which is, I was telling you guys before this started, that
Mm-hmm.
they censored thousands of earthquakes off the map in the past several months, anywhere from Alaska all the way down to Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been seeing this for years. I mean, first off, you know, going back to Jim Birkeland, he called Loma Prieta in '89, and he was right. And his thanks for being right was that he was fired. So there's, you know, always this lid, keep the cattle, you know, keep the cattle happy. One of the things that I noticed was that there was an aviation turbulence alert on this. You were showing in one of your videos. Describe that and how it relates to this. Do you think it was part of a twist around that they issued the alert, or something else?
Well, here's what we go through on YouTube. For those of you who aren't big YouTube followers or don't ever go on there, we are held, those of us who report the real news about what's going on, are held to a higher standard. I swear to you. We are held to a higher standard than even your newspaper or TV or anyone. And so,
I know. I've got a YouTube channel. I mean, you know, we have similar numbers. You know, we're getting ready to break 14 million on my channel.
That's great, and congratulations. That's a big step to make that many people. You've reached, you know, 2 huge population centers of the world, if you think about it that way. And what I want to point out is that we have a pattern that's occurring. And, you know, I could digress into this for hours, but the pattern that I see occurring is a censorship of the data. And the FAA thing points it out perfectly, which is I went to go pull additional data to prove my point, to say that there's something going on. And the first thing that comes across my head is, hey, you should probably go check the FAA and see if they've issued any flight warnings in the area and see if it's outdoors. You know, I mean, it makes sense. So I went over and checked, and there's a what's denotated as heavy turbulence, and it looks like a bump with 2 lines through it, and it's placed directly over the area where the volcanic plume erupted from. So I made the video, I put it out, I put a link to the thing. Within an hour, it's gone. All the others are still up there all the way across the country. A couple of them are still there. And they pulled that one when I put the video out. Now, I can't prove that, but it's just a strange coincidence. Within an hour of me putting the video out, they've got that little bump off there. And so, but it was proof at the time, and it was proof at the time, that a heavy turbulence warning was issued for that area only. And there's no storm in the area, because I just pulled the previous data, and it just shows clouds coming up off the ground right in a lava volcanic field off the Mojave Desert.
Wow. Wow. And, you know, I want to ask you, Dutch, we got a question that comes in from the virtual studio from a Seeker 2, and wants to know, has anyone reported picking up a very high frequency or ultra low frequency signals on radio equipment during a Haarp ring anomaly, or even during this?
Not that I know of during this yet. I'm going to have to look into it. It's been a really busy day for me, hundreds of phone calls and having to put the videos out. But I can tell you in the past, for those of you who are on the internet, you can go on to youtube.com/DutchSinse, and that's spelled DUTCHSINSE. And you'll find a video that I put out about a month and a half ago, and it shows a huge outbreak of weather modification rings and what we call scalar squares, which are giant squares that appear in the clouds in precipitation only when you're looking at the radar. And as that was happening, I got a message from a buddy of mine who's a shortwave ham radio operator, and I put out a video asking ham radio operators if they were experiencing interference like my friend was reporting. And they were. It was so bad. There's several websites you can go. They're called web SDRs, and on a web SDR, you can listen to shortwave radio on multiple bands. You can listen to Haarp. You can listen to the Russian woodpecker. You can listen to the Chinese meridian. You can listen to all these different devices if you know what frequency to tune into. And all the ham radio operators, first of all, it was hard to locate a signal on the visible dial because of all the background interference that's shown in static. There was so much background interference occurring. And, of course, you're listening to these guys talk, and they're like, well, you know, we don't have any signal down here. You know, we don't know what's going on. How's the weather up there? And they're doing weather reports, too, because they're trying to figure out where the interference is coming from that's blocking their signal. And it was just all over the entire spectrum. And then when you look at, and that takes us back to the animals that died all over the world. The geologists who predicted California in the 1980s, of course, cats are running away when there's going to be a localized earthquake. But if you see hundreds of millions of animals dying on the world at once, then that's the sign of a huge global problem, a huge earthquake that's coming, or a series of earthquakes all around the world. And that's what's happened literally since January of this year. Since January of this year, it has literally picked up on a daily basis, and it has not let up.
I know. And I mean, Dutch, I really admire you for the work that you're doing, because monitoring this stuff is just hard. I'm looking at all this, and then, you know, you get people are going, what earth changes? I don't see any earth changes. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to notice them if your head is in the sand. But we do have a caller on right now. We have a fellow. Would you want to take a quick call in?
Oh, sure. Yes, definitely.
Okay. And I'm bringing in. We've got Jay from Washington. Hello, Jay. This is Marshall.
Hello.
Hello. Have you got a question for Dutch?
I do. I wanted to know more about Mount St. Helens, and I was watching his channel, and he had mentioned something about magma flow being the cause of all the uptake in activity there, and I'm wondering if you could explain that a little further.
Yes, I definitely can. I've been looking at the Pacific Northwest for a little while now. Several months I've been putting videos out on it. I've been looking at it for several years. Been up there. I just drove up there about 4 weeks ago, and visited the entire area, went out to the Olympic Forest, and really got to see it up close and personal. I truly believe that Mount St. Helens and the other volcanoes in the area, if you go look at the charts, you see that they rumble. They're literally rumbling, and then they silent off completely. And when I mean rumbling, we're talking for 10, 11 hours. You'll see it completely kick up in a background magma flow harmonic, which is the best way you can describe it is that the chart shakes, or shows shaking, I should say, for several hours, and then it stops. And that's how you know there's something deep underground that's moving. And that's usually 9 times out of 10 or more magma itself, flowing underground lava that is trying to push its way up, usually towards the surface. Sometimes it's flowing laterally from one chamber to another. It's usually a sign that there's the vents deep down below are starting to crack, break, and fill with new magma, which is basically the sign of an eruption that's going to happen. But what's occurring around the world that I'm seeing, at least, according to this is in my opinion, is that I'm seeing earthquakes occur in the same zones where there's volcanic activity. Now, everybody knows that, but the earthquakes are occurring to relieve the pressure from the volcanoes. So I don't think you're going to see Mount St. Helens erupt. I think what we'll see first is a large earthquake in the area that would relieve the pressure before the magma reached the point where it would cause an eruption. And that's just an educated guess on my part. Mount St. Helens, specifically crater double B, I was looking at the chart last night. It showed just a tremendous amount of rumbling. June Lake also charts just, every day just showing activity. But you go back a year and it's blank. The charts show, no activity at all for a long period of time. And then now you're seeing daily activity, not just there. You're seeing it at Mount Baker. You're seeing it at the Three Sisters. You're seeing it all the way down into Oregon. And
well, I was around during the eruption back in the 80s. And this kind of activity was on the news all the time. And I'm wondering how come the news media isn't picking up on all these strange events right now, because it is kind of concerning.
It is.
Well, guys, why they're doing it, let's just be honest, is that this information, there's different explanations for it. One very simple explanation is this is not the kind of information that's going to sell credit cards and tampons for advertisers. Okay? Now, that's one simple explanation. But the other one is where they really come in and with a very heavy hand. And it's the news departments, I was a CNN science field producer back in the 80s. And this was in the pre-Fonda days, and when Turner was running it. And I will tell you, at that time, CNN was a lean, mean, hard news machine. And it was a very exciting place to get involved with. And now it's just this entertainment news and it's fluff. It's really turned into bread and circus. But all of them are that way. Whether it's CNN or MSNBC or Fox, they're all opinionated, they're all polarized, and it's all pandering to base instincts so often. I get tired of watching just one unfortunately dead white female story after another. You know, so let me ask you, Jay, since you just strolled in,
Okay.
do you feel your government's being honest with you?
No. No, I
Do you
don't.
feel your media is being, the mainstream media is being honest with you?
My personal take on it is the media is whitewashing all the events that happen only for their own propaganda to pass a bill where they ever start announcing certain things that happen. Like if there's a gun bill, then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of articles on the news about shootings in places, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
that's
So
just for a example. And that can go on and on about every type of thing they want to hype up. They don't announce it until there's some benefit for themselves.
that's right. Or until they're told to. Jay, thanks for coming on. That was a great question. And
Hey, thank you very much.
Look forward to having you calling again. Thank you much, sir.
Hey,
and Dutch, we heard, you know, I mean, it was just interesting to hear somebody out of the blue out there. But now I'm going to ask you those same two questions. Do you believe what the government tells you?
No, I don't. I approach it with this, I don't know, philosophy, if you will, trust but verify. There's certain things you can trust the government on. Well, they'll send you. You can trust they'll send you a bill for taxes. You can trust you can trust that they'll always have some new defense spending program. Okay, but there's certain things I don't trust about them, and that's that they're going to give me the proper information in time that I need it to make a decision that will save myself. Because if you can save yourself, what do you need your government for? Okay, it's just that simple, and this is simple. It's a simple philosophy. Seriously, I mean, why do we need them if we can save ourselves? And then they need a use, they need a function, and to create a function, they could usually create a problem. And it's called, I mean, it goes back to 9/11 and conspiracy theory, which is the opening of all my videos is a busted Illuminati symbol. Okay, and my motto is adepto or perfectus, which in layman's tongue is get her done. All right, and what I mean by get her done is the conspiracy behind needing government and false flag operations and creating problems and not releasing the proper information, et cetera, is that it all goes back to this control mechanism that is represented by the Illuminati, okay? And the Illuminati is, to me, it's almost a joke because it represents something bigger than a group. It represents an idea. And so when I show a broken pyramid, the pyramid that the Illuminati live by, that the people that actually subscribe to this theory, is an uncompleted pyramid. And the reason it is an uncompleted pyramid is they consider the world an unfinished work, and that they're putting the final touches on it, or God's putting the final touches on it, or some force is putting the final touches on it, and eventually it's going to be capped with a tip of gold. And so I show it busted, and I show it blown up, because I don't subscribe to that theory. I think that we can all manifest our own fate if we share information, if we know the facts. We can make decisions for ourselves that will actually be good. And so look at the mess our whole country's in. Look at the mess everybody's in with credit cards and home mortgages. And I mean, hey, I'm one of you guys. Okay, I lost my house out in Colorado. I lost everything. Nobody knows this story about me. But I mean, you know, I've been.
You know what, Dutch? I'd like to. You know, I think it's important for the listeners out there to connect with you and to understand why we do what we do as researchers and where we come from, because it is all too easy to be branded. All you need is for David Morrison at NASA to go, Dutch senses bad science, you know, and and then he'll have his reasons for it, you know, but they don't have to get into any substance. I mean, it's just this patronizing condemnations, and people get smeared. So tell the listeners a little bit about this history so that, you know, they can understand. You're a real person. You've been dealing with real life crisis, and yet this is outshining the rest of it, because just from the little that you said, somebody's got to be thinking, if I had those kind of problems, why would I be caring about the world?
Well, it's funny. My wife and I have had this discussion a dozen times, which is I used to be that way, which is I used to be the person who was like, man, I've got so many problems. I hate the world. I hate people. I've like quoted saying that 1,000 times. And in the process of I went and got my technical degree from, I mean, you can go look at my Facebook if you want to find out my educational history, but I got computer science, and I got into the cell phone industry, and I moved out to Colorado to go open up T-Mobile cell phone stores. And to make a long story that's really boring and uninteresting, even more boring, I lost it all out when I moved out to Colorado to go work for the cell phone company. They closed up shop. They sold the stores to private franchises and let everybody go. And I had just purchased a brand new house with my wife. We put my 401k, my life savings into it, all of her money, all our money we had to put as a down payment on this house. We put like $100,000, everything we had down on this house. And they gave us the loan.
Oh, my God.
And it gets worse. And so after I lost my job, of course, we're left with this house payment, and it was like $3,000 a month, which is huge when you're 26, 27 years old. And we couldn't make the payment, so we had to go work multiple jobs. My wife had to work 2 jobs. I had to work 2 jobs, and it still wasn't enough. And so we had to sell our house, and that was in 2005. And we had to sell our house in 2005. Now think about that for a second. It was the height of the crash, 2005, 2006, and we had to sell our house for $100,000 less than what we bought it for. And it was a brand new house, brand new. There was houses right next to us, same make and model, that the builder knocked down the cost on by $100,000. And so when we sold, we lost everything we put into the house. I lost it all. And so I had to come back to St. Louis and live with family members to get back on my feet. And in the process of doing all that, I had to make a choice. What am I going to do? And just by fate or by God or however you want to call it, I started making these YouTube videos. A family member bought me a video camera. Somebody gave me their laptop. And that's when I started making the videos. And people said to me, why don't you go back out into the real world and work a real job and don't make these videos? When I first started making them, I had all these critics, and I still do, but I don't listen to them anymore. But
well, Dutch, didn't you know that's the reason why God made a delete key?
Oh, yeah. I use it.
Yeah, it works for me. Works for me. Get a trash mail. All I got to do is check a few keywords. Don't even read it. You know, they are all so predictable. When I see them, it's like, thank you, God. Delete, delete, delete. You know, try it. It is really satisfying.
Oh, and, well, I'll tell you what. There's a whole network. What people don't know about video making, especially on YouTube, is that when you start touching on these subjects like Haarp and weather modification and earthquakes and just weird things that people don't normally talk about, you come under this scrutiny, and they, for instance, this network of critics posted all my personal information online: my name, the coordinates to my front door, my address, my mom's name, my mom's address, my wife's parents' names and addresses. They threatened me, literally, in an email, which I sent to YouTube security, and I posted a video on it. They threatened me that if I didn't stop making videos, that they were going to release my financials. And we tried to, but luckily I lost everything. So if you release anything, I mean, I don't care. If my credit's ruined, so if you actually steal my identity, it's actually a good idea. So they did that, and we reported it to the FBI cybercrimes. My parents were, my mom's 70 years old. Okay, you got to understand, I'm in my mid-30s. So to mess with a 70-plus-year-old woman, it really, really upset me. And I put a video out and asked my viewers to help me look into who these people are. And in the process of looking into who they are, you wouldn't believe where it leads. It leads to private companies working in conjunction with other agencies to go out daily and discredit people and create havoc and dismay in the videos, in the comments, thumbs them up, thumbs them down, make sure they don't get up high in the ratings, that kind of thing. And they do it actively on a paid basis.
That's right. That's right. You know, I'll tell you, Dutch, when I started doing this show, I was by myself, and boy, I tell you, I was fair game. And then Bill Zan and Susan both stepped up to the plate to help me out. And if it hadn't been for them doing that, I mean, we're talking about, and you're in the computer business. I was in the computer industry for 23 years. My client list included AT&T, Lockheed Martin, Oracle, Sun Microsystems. I could go on. And my last specialty was data centers. All right, everything that was, on the inside trusted networks. So I understood exactly what they were doing and how deep they were hitting. They were hitting in places where, hacker kids are not going to get. They were hitting on the inside trusted networks of the data centers. And there's very few ways to get in that way. And so I spotted that, and exactly what you're talking about, I've had to deal with this same thing. It's in 2008, the disinformation campaign started against me when I was releasing my analysis of the disclosure videos on the South Pole Telescope. And, that was when I learned the first rule. Anything that comes really close to the truth disappears really fast. And I was lucky enough to catch that stuff. But they hit me on the broadsides just like they hit you. And you fought back. You did the right fight, man. And it's out there. It's ugly. I mean, you know, when guys like you are being attacked, you know, you're good voices of logic. And even in the show coming up, you know, the old expression, raise the flag, see who salutes, see who shoots. And on one hand, I have so many people so excited. And on the other, we have people that are really buying into this stuff. And and we have a call that's coming in on the studio. Bill wants me to take this really fast. So you up for another one? It's the Wizard.
Oh, yes, definitely. Would love to talk to anybody.
Okay. Okay, Wizard, you're on. You got your question?
Hi, Dutch. The
Hey,
Wizard here. I just called to say high five, dude, and just to send much love grenade, Duck. That's all I got for you. No, just this is great. You're unstoppable, and don't cower to nothing.
Hey, I appreciate it, and much love back at you, brother.
We're right behind you. You know that. You're never alone. You disappear, and we'll never stop looking for you. I'm telling you.
Oh, God. That's good to know. And I'll tell you what, if I ever disappear, I've got a plan, just so the powers that be know. I've got a plan in place. If I disappear,
yeah, well, you know where I am.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah. We got to talk again, brother.
You bet. Don't worry about trying to get up here either, because, you know, it's a little different up here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'll
Okay.
be tonight. Hey, just so everybody knows, we know each other. This is great to talk to you, and I will be back in touch. I promise.
Okay.
Okay, Wiz. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers. And, you know, while you're talking to the Wiz, and Dutch, I just want to tell you a little something, because we have, how we came into this is somewhat similar. You know, you don't come to this because you're looking for it. You walk straight backwards into it. And my case, I was in an car accident back in 2000. And I couldn't work. I had 3 herniated discs in my neck, and I was eating pain meds like candy and just sitting on the couch watching television, ice packing, and at that time just trying to find contract work up in the Silicon Valley that I could do remotely. And, you know, this was after the bubble broke on .com, and so there was nothing much unless you could very much speak in, you know, the different language homes and take their money. But it was pretty gruesome, and I was just really didn't know what to do with myself. And so, and because you got to sit there and wait for the phone to ring, because when these recruiters call, if you're not there to pick up that phone, they just go on to the next name on the list, and that list is so long they never loop back. And so I started writing God's Child Covenant, Return of Nibiru, which talks about earth changes and all of that. And it kept me going. And that's really what started me on this publishing and doing everything that I'm doing right now, was 3 herniated discs in my neck and all of the financial havoc that comes from it. And just, you know, your life gets turned upside down and dropped on, you know, you get dropped on your head. And you're just amazing, because I know what that means, Dutch. And, you know, you just didn't let it turn you to the dark side. You found a mission, and really you're rocking on.
I agree.
So, I mean,
I was at the dark side. Don't let people. I'm just like you are. Okay, I'm no different. I had my dark moment, and I call it my crisis of faith or my crisis of conscience. I really let myself down, honestly. I mean, I'll just be honest. I'm going to be held to account at some point when I die. So I've really messed up at points in my life, and I'm willing to live with that, because it led me to the point where I'm at now, which is a greater appreciation and understanding of several things on moral, spiritual, and even political somewhat levels that never stumbled across if I hadn't lost it all, if I hadn't gone through the ringer and made the wrong choices, or what turned out to be the right choices, because you can't make a wrong choice, because any wrong choice you make will eventually lead you to where you're supposed to be. But you've got to learn from your mistakes, otherwise you get stuck making wrong choices. And
right. Dutch, do us a favor. Your voice is coming in and out a little bit. Susan was telling me from the chat room.
Okay.
Can you hold that microphone real close to your mouth so we get good audio on you?
Yes, definitely. I apologize. I apologize. I had to walk in the other room. So it's touching on Nibiru. did you see the article that just came out on Fox News?
No.
Fox.com ran a front-page article debunking Nibiru, and it's the laughable article of the century. It's they invoke Zeta Reticuli and Zeta Talk and a bunch of other baloney, and they mix it in and call it a conspiracy theory and everything. And it was just maybe 2 or 3 days ago they put the story out. They even incorporated Elenin into it. So go check that out. It's a laughable piece. It's definitely a Fox News hit job. And I'm on board with the idea that there's an extra-planetary influence on what's causing our uptick in severe weather and earthquakes. It's not all weather modification, and it's not all just a series of earthquakes. It's being influenced, especially with the number of objects that are appearing, and they're going into the sun or passing Earth that are just unidentified, and they should have been identified. We're talking glowing comets passing by. Okay, it's not a space rock that you can't see. And they're not identifying these things because there's so many of them coming up, and they have to be coming from somewhere.
Have you noticed, Dutch, that when they write this trash, there are people that they don't mention by names, websites that they don't mention with an address, and you and I are the people that if they refer to us, it's indirectly in obtuse terms, but never where somebody knows exactly who we are. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yes. Could you imagine if they were held to the standard that a YouTube video maker is held to, where they had to provide all the links down below so you could, and see the source story and everything? I mean, they just couldn't do it because they would fail epically, and we'd see it all in one day's reporting. And so they literally shape it and craft it. They even incorporate in subliminal messages. I encourage everybody to go. I'm not kidding on this. I'm not conspiracizing. This is for real. Go through any topic.
I see it. I see it.
Yeah, there's subliminal numbers and letter repeating and that kind of stuff, that you know whether or not a story is real or not, whether or not it's crafted. And ironically, all the financial stories are true. On like CNNmoney.com, and you go read those stories, especially the ones having to do with specific numbers, specific dollar amounts. Those stories are always right on. But then you go watch or go read a story having to do with the Norway shooting, and you get a bunch of blathering. And it's obvious when you look at it that way, that it's just controlled to the point where that's why there's 12 million people coming on looking for earthquake news from me. There should be an earthquake channel on CNN that just reports nothing but weather and earthquakes, but they don't do that.
Well, there's not going to be. It was a couple of years ago, CNN fired. They completely disbanded their science department and took those people, the ones that they wanted to keep, and merged them in with other departments. So you had someone that would actually be doing that and following that information, and now they're on unfortunately dead white female stories. And so, I mean, the definite shift, for me, it's painful to watch CNN. I just don't really even watch it unless there's, something really, really good, or I'll TiVo it so that I can skip through the nonsense. But the rest of it's just, biased news entertainment. And Fox is, I'm not surprised. One of the things that happened, Dr. Michio Kaku was on Fox, and this was back in 2008, and he went on, put his face in on there, and said, "Hey, we're scientists are wrong about the coming solar maximum, and we're off by a factor of 20." And that's pretty substantial. A factor of 20 is the difference between an X-class storm and a Y-class storm, and that's a difference you really don't want to know the hard way. And the result was, instead of the guy asking serious questions about it, he just blew it off and said, "Nah, it's this it's this millennium bug hype again, Y2K. You're nonsense," and totally trivialized one of the greatest scientific evangelists since Carl Sagan.
I know when they roll out Michio Kaku that there's a disaster in process, and only when Michio Kaku comes out is when I know, okay, they're actually warning real scientists that there's a problem, and this is going above and beyond their regular news hype. You mentioned CNN and Fox and MSNBC and NBC. I've created acronyms. This is kind of funny, but CNN, completely negative news, okay? And Fox.
I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Fox is focused on xenophobia. CBS, complete BS. ABC, all bull crap. Yeah, we could just keep going on. But they all have their acronyms, and they all stand for what they really mean. And so I don't get my news from mainstream anymore. I do turn it on to laugh every once in a while or to see when they're going to report the news that I already reported or if they're going to report it. I don't even really bother to listen to the stuff like Norway and just those kind of events because they usually tend to be staged. I won't even go into that. We're not going to go into conspiracy here tonight. But so mainstream news should be taken for what it's worth, which is paid entertainment that you're actually most likely paying for because that's the only channels that offer it 24/7.
That's right.
That's right. I mean, any other TV station is just showing soap operas during the day. So, that's what it is, and that's why there's such a hunger and a thirst for it. And so that's why your radio show is probably doing really well, and why I'm getting a lot of viewers, because people have the BS meter. They can tell when they're being lied to, especially when they hear their friends talking about, hey, we're being lied to. Did you hear about so-and-so on YouTube, or did you hear about the radio show? Man, they really laid it out there last night. And, for instance, we're the only people talking about the Volcanic Earthquake Association tonight in California. I mean, I guarantee you there's no other radio talking about that tonight. And it's a big story. It's one of the biggest stories out there.
It's a huge story. To me, look, one of the things when you came up with that, when I saw that venting, all right, and the first thing for some reason came to my mind was a couple of weeks ago, there was a city in India where all of the wells were rising and flooding the town.
Yes.
And it was just like, boom, blip, nobody does it. But we've got about 6 minutes left in this segment, and Susan in the chat room has thrown 3 questions at me, so let's try and nail these 3 real quick before we go to break. First one is from Patriot Woman. Does anyone know what the big bright thing is moving towards the sun? It has been on Soho for almost a week now, and it has developed a big shadow behind it. I don't know if you follow Soho.
Yes, I do follow Soho. There's a debate. Okay, there's always a debate when there's a strange bright object that shows up. This one has been, I think, settled as Venus. However, don't dismiss it yet because that's always the official line that people settle with. Keep an eye on it. I say if it sticks around past longer than a week and a half, then you know it's not Venus because the transit time would be quicker and you can compare it to past times where Venus has gone by. And I recommend doing that, is going back 6 months or a year, whatever the rotation of Venus would be in front of Soho, and look up last year's data at the same time and see if it's there. And if it is, then you know that it's Venus. And if it's not, then you know it's an outside object.
Got it. Now, we have another one that came in from Confisher67, and this is a question that actually is on my mind, too. Has anyone been sent out or live close to the area in California where you reported the venting to get a physical visual on the volcanic activity? That's something people would love to see some video on.
Yes.
Although I don't know what would show after the fact.
There's several people with eyewitness reports. However, I will only allow those to be posted in the comment field. I won't make videos or post those out. I won't settle for anything less than a video of it. One person, the night of the first eruption, so on Saturday night at dusk, they recorded the skyline right in the area, and you can't see the mountain. It looks like it's not smoke. It looks like a thick fog, and you can't see the mountain from where she's at. Now, that's the only shot of it. Now, I've had several people say, if it happens again, I'm going to go up there for you, Dutch. Well, it's happened twice in the last day and a half. Now, I live in St. Louis, Missouri. For those of you outside of the States or whatever, it's the center of the United States, California, far west coast, 1,500 miles away. So I could try to get out there and go stake it out in the Mojave Desert. But I'm hoping there's somebody that lives out there that will eventually get word of my video and go out there and stake a camera and get it. That's the only way we'll ever get it. There's satellite feed. Now, this is the other evidence that I've got, is today especially, clear skies. All of California, the high-pressure system moved everything out of the way, no cloud cover. And there's satellite feed. You can look at visible cloud cover from today, and you see it. It comes up out of the ground and swirls up in the air and then goes away. It's right there. I mean, when I saw it, I said, oh, my God, USGS, I can't believe it. They're going to have to eat crow pie so hard on this. And, I almost did a little dance for joy, and I did a little break dance and said, oh, God, I can't believe this. This is vindication within one day of them slamming me. And so that's the evidence.
But, Dutch, they're going to sweep that under the carpet, too. So, folks just don't understand how massive this disinformation is. how much of it's out there. I mean, when I'm working on the internet and I'm looking and I'm seeing things, and it's like I always use this analogy. It's like remember Neo, he saw the Matrix and what's that? They said, don't worry, you'll learn to read it in time and then everything will get clear. And it's the same way with disinformation. Once you learn to read the disinformation code, God, it's all over the place like a bad case of the warts. And but got one more question here, and then we're gonna do a little music interlude for everybody so they can let out the cat and brew the tea. And this one is from Max597. He asks, is there any news on Nebraska flooding and nuke plants? Because there's zero news on TV and internet since June, I think, what he's showing. Got any updates on that there, Dutch?
Okay, I live at the conjunction of the Missouri and the Mississippi River in St. Louis. I have not been up there since I went up there personally a month ago and took radiation measurements at Fort Calhoun Nuclear Power Plant. I got shots of the flooding. I drove up to the entrance where they have Blackwater security with AK-47s and literally AK-47s, not AR-15s. And they had to turn around the whole bit. And when I was up there, they had a huge sandbag wall that they had constructed, and it was big. It was 20, 30 feet high around the entire plant. Now, the parking lot was flooded. The entrance you could go in, but then, it was just a loading dock down at the bottom where you could drive up to. Now, since then, the day after I left, and this was 4 weeks ago now, a month ago, it broke. The wall broke, and the plant was flooded.
The wall broke?
The wall broke. You can go look it up. The wall broke. It failed. The levee failed the day after I left. Gosh, I wish I could pull up that video right now. But long story short, the thing broke, and news hush out ever since. They've blocked the roads, so you can't get into the industrial park. It's a giant industrial park there, and I've got viewers that have tried to go up there since then, and the only shot you can get is from across the river far away where all you see is steam coming up. Now,
oh, God.
Right,
That's not good.
Now, here's the thing, is that if it's flooded, okay, you want a reactor to be flooded. Okay, so you wouldn't be really worrying about a meltdown because they could pump water constantly over it. Okay, they could just keep a pump in there and switch the water around. But it makes the water radioactive. And where does that water go? It goes back into the river, and then, of course, we have a phenomenal amount of storms that just keep coming over Nebraska, keep coming over Iowa, keep coming over Missouri. And it's almost like they're trying to wash it out because it's already been compromised, I think, in my personal opinion. There's no way for me to verify it. I took my Geiger counters up there. There was nothing, but that was the day before.
Well, what you're telling me, and it really is disappointing, is that with Fort Calhoun, it's just a replay of the BP oil spill, which was a real-time whitewash, and it was orchestrated between the government and BP. And there was no question about that because, we heard the news reporters saying, I can't get in there, and it was BP goons with federal officers backing them up, and they couldn't go out, and we couldn't get any coverage, and that's not a good sign when we have this real-time whitewashing. So for Max 597, if you're in the wrong place, buddy, think about it.
Can I add one more thing to that? Is that to Max, I would say I would like to go back up there soon in the next week or so before the TV show begins taping again and get some answers to that specifically. Take some water samples right outside downstream. I do want to do that, and you know what? I'm just go ahead and commit to doing that. I will commit to doing that on your show right now. I want to do it. Somebody just had to bring it up. I'm gonna go up and do it. I got to find out because I live here. The water is coming downstream, and so if it is contaminated, it comes here, and we get our drinking water from the Mississippi River, which feeds Missouri, feeds into the Mississippi. So
not good, not good. Well, Dutch, we've come up to the top of this segment. I'm going to play a little music here for folks so that they can go off and make the tea, throw out the cat. When we come back, we're going to start right off. We have a question from Lori Corbett on the 3 supervolcanoes in Wyoming, New Mexico, and California, and that will be our first question starting right up after we finish the break, so stand by with me. And for those of you out there, we're going to feature tonight Glenn Miller and In the Mood. And this was a song that was real popular back during World War II, and folks went to war listening to this music, dancing to this music. And so every time I listen to these songs from that time, I can remember when, well, frankly, We had more confidence on our government.
But what they don't know is
Yep.
there's a supervolcano in California about 100 miles north of the area we're talking about with the vents. There's a supervolcano called Mono Lake, California. That's one. And then there's one in New Mexico called the Valles caldera, and it's also a supervolcano. They all show signs of supermassive eruption in the last 500,000 to 100,000 years. And that's a rough date guesstimate off the top of my head from what I remember. But so you're looking at those 3 supervolcanoes. The one that shows all the activity, well, actually there's 2 that are showing a lot of activity right now. One is Yellowstone, and we talked about that earlier with the USGS, literally wiping those earthquakes off the map. Go on YouTube, search Science Scandal. You will find my videos when I first started making videos at the time of the animal deaths, lambasting the USGS as a science scandal for deleting the earthquakes. So that one shows activity, and then Mono Lake, California, which is right on the border of Nevada and California, east of Sacramento. And it is swarming. Every day there are swarms there. So that's the answer to the question.
Wow. Dutch, Bill's telling me from the studio you're fading in and out a little bit, so you got to keep that phone close.
Dang it. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Oh, no worries. No worries. We're having fun. It just happens that way. Well, the topic's not so much fun, but, hanging out is really cool. So now I have a question for you from a new one from the virtual room that Susan passed on, and it's Jay Creed, and it's question for Dutch. Any possible correlation between the second Pisgah, I don't know if that's the way it's pronounced, but the second Pisgah event the other day and the radar blackout occurring at almost the same time?
Yes, that is a very strange coincidence that I don't accept coincidences anymore, especially when they happen more than once. So when you see a data feed, cut or out of range where it would normally be in range, then you know somebody's messing with it or literally censoring the data. And as the first steam vent happened, the feeds on weather.gov were cut. It literally showed a black screen with a red X. And I had never seen that one before personally. That was cut, and the only places you could actually view it occurring were on the college weather websites. Now, what most people don't know is all the colleges, or several colleges around the country, have their own weather departments, their own access to the NextRad sites, their own past data. You can go look up all the radar from yesterday or the day before or last year. And those feeds don't go in to weather.gov. So if you're getting your main stuff from any one of these weather sites, so weather.com, the Weather Channel, AccuWeather, IntelliCast, they're all getting their master feeds fed to them through the Weather Service. And so you literally have to skip the middleman, go around the Weather Service, and go to the place where the Weather Service is getting a lot of their data for themselves, which is colleges. So that's how you do it. You go look up these radar feeds through the colleges, and you're able to see this. But that explains why they cut it on the main site, is because that's the site everybody goes to.
So then the government is an aggregator. The actual source stuff is out there with colleges. They're posting what's really happening, but the government is using its aggregation feed to throttle misinformation. And then then what they do is they simply reinvent the circumstances so that they can, turn around and accuse you of, what was it the guy said, that your analysis was wrong or something?
Correct. Misinterpretation.
Yeah. Misinterpretation. Right. And pardon, could you come again?
Oh, I said, and then a 6.0 hits the same day that they say I misinterpreted the data. Then the 5.9 just hit Southern California, and in the same general area, a few, not right in the same area, but right there. And and I just, that's just vindication for me, because here's a professional volcanologist saying, oh, there's no threat in the area, and then boom.
Yeah, and it goes on, and I mean, it's like, and I wish you the best of luck with your TV show. I really do, and I would love to see you get out there. I sure want to watch it. And but I can remember a couple of years ago, Penn and Teller came to me, and they wanted to interview me, and I just said, excuse me, I haven't taken a stupid pill today. That's like, no way am I going to be on with Penn and Teller. But so I referred him off to Dr. Rand, who wrote Another Planet X book, and they sent out a full production, a 4-man team, and they spent a day and a half with him and did some on-location stuff. It was just really brilliant. It was intense. They did a lot of work. They produced everything, sent it back to the network, and the network not only shut down the project, that they terminated the production company, and the people who actually videoed Rand were let go.
Wow.
I mean, that is pretty gnarly. That's the kind of power that happens out there. So, you know, it goes on. Got a question for you from the chat room. Do you see anything coming for Baja California?
Okay, well, that's where the 6.0 or 5.9 now, they revised it down. That's where the 6.0 just happened. It happened in the Strait of California, which is a body of water that basically the body of water extends from Tijuana, Mexico, south, okay? And it occurred right in the channel there. And for Baja California, well, what it means is that there's a split. And the swarms that are occurring there, specifically several thousand earthquakes in the past few months, it's a split that, to me, is definitely showing signs of further activity, which, well, I mean, there's no easy way to say this. It means that there's a split going up towards Los Angeles, okay? And people would, you know, interpret that whichever way they want, which means, do I think that California is going to fall into the ocean? No. Is there a possibility that a fissure could open and more water could go up north through Mexico? Yes. But with the volcanic activity that's occurring and the plate, literally the plate tectonics that are occurring right now are so vast that you're looking at 6.0s every day, 7.0s every 2 to 3 days. You're looking at a time that Southern California, Baja California in particular, could receive, and I will stand by this, could receive up to an 8 or greater in the next 1 to 2 months tops. And I'd say...
Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that? Because you were fading a little bit. It was a little bit of chop on your cell phone, and that was an important...
Okay.
Repeat that prediction.
Yes, I'd say within 1 to 2 months' time, we're looking at a magnitude 8 or greater anywhere from Baja California, northeast to Mono Lake, California, northwest, all the way up through Oregon to the Cascadia Range. Now, I know that's a huge area, but Earth-wise, I mean, over the whole planet, that's a really small area to name over the next 2 months. And if it happens anywhere north of, well, let's say San Francisco, it'll happen in the ocean. It'll happen in the ocean, which means a tsunami threat. And I really, truly believe that it's coming. There's no way it can't. And the reason I say that is if you look around the entire ring of fire, every other area...
It's on fire.
Right. And there's no way around it.
The ring of fire is on fire. And, you know, and the other one, and it was, I think, one of your other videos that you spotted with what's happening with the subsea seismicity off the coast of Puerto Rico.
Yes. Yes, the fracturing.
And
it's fracturing.
That is really worrisome for me. I've got folks that I love dearly that live in Houston. And if that were to be another tsunami, I mean, on par with, you know, 2004, Sumatra superquake and tsunami, that could funnel a lot of bad death water right into the Gulf. I mean, hit Florida, the southern eastern states. It would be bad news all the way around.
1 month ago, at the time of the NLE 2011, which was national level exercise for a simulation of a New Madrid earthquake, they spent, I think it was $50 million FEMA spent to hold the Caribbean X, and it's called the Caribe, K-R-I-B-E /EX. So for those of you who are listening, you can look that up. And it was a full simulation of a catastrophic event in Puerto Rico that caused a tsunami throughout the Caribbean and right up to Florida. And that was the mock exercise. And they also held one over in the Pacific, and it was called the Pacific X, PA without the C on the end, so it's the Pacific X. And same thing, only the tsunami was coming from out near the Cascadia Range, out, you know, basically Pacific Northwest. And so they held those two exercises jointly at the same time, the U.S. military, FEMA, the whole bit. And it's a sign that the government is preparing. The government is taking steps to prepare themselves and their forces and the military and the police for a, literally, it seems like they're preparing for a global event. Not just one. They're preparing it at the New Madrid. They're preparing at the Pacific Northwest. They're preparing on the East Coast. And they're preparing around the world, which means you know, the seed bank and the vaults and all that stuff that they've built. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the pattern that these people value their money, they value their wealth. They're not going to waste it needlessly on building bases and seed vaults and that kind of stuff if they didn't have some kind of idea that there was going to be a global problem, not just a localized California problem. So that's where we are. And so when we talk about the TV show that I'm doing, it's, you know, just not without giving anything away, it's going to be focusing on kind of the things that I'm already covering, which are earthquakes, storm patterns, that sort of thing. And that's those topics are going to become so prevalent in the media that the problem that your friend ran into back when they pulled a show for talking about Planet X, or Penn and Teller, I'm sorry, will not happen this time, because they know it's going to be at such a crescendo, such a culmination of events, that it's going to actually be on TV.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you just can't keep hiding, pushing it aside, you know. But I mean, there's that great line from that movie 2012, you know, when was it decided that people don't have a right to fight for their lives? And that's really, you know, what I see in a grand picture. And, you know, what I'd like to do is I've got one more question from the virtual room, but then I really want to step backwards, so to speak, for the bigger picture of everything that's going on. But first we have this one question from the chat room. The atmospheric heating is over in Japan with the earthquake. What are your thoughts on that?
I have seen firsthand radar evidence, kind of like the Haarp rings that I've seen on radar here, that appeared the night before in Japan. And you can go look it up on YouTube. There's people have taken screenshots with timestamps, so you know they didn't fake it. And also, I'd like to remind everybody that a freak snowstorm brewed up in Japan the day of the quake. This very strange snow ring appeared over North Japan. It wasn't over Fukushima, but it was over like North actual Japan, the entire country. That's how big the ring. And I saw that firsthand. I posted it on my YouTube page, like on March 12th, so the day after the big quake. And YouTube flagged it for matching third-party content, which is a copyright violation. And if you get too many of them, they ban your account. And so I had to delete the video, and it's still floating around out there, but you have to really search it. And when you search it, a million hits come up on a bunch of other crap, like Lady Gaga videos and stuff start coming up.
Right. That's how they bury it. They go into the search engine listings, and that's how they bury you.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I see, as one YouTuber to another, I mean, you kind of get the feeling YouTube is, what side of the fence are they on, do you think? Are they really trying to maintain an open forum and they've got to concede ground when they're getting pressure? Or do you think they're just part and parcel of it?
Well, I think there's both aspects. You can go watch some really cool videos on YouTube about YouTube, and it's really funny that you do that. But if you go look up the Google Data Center or go look up the YouTube centers and stuff, they're made up of people that are kind of just like me, all right, or just like you, which is, you know, you've got an ex-CNN guy working there, and you've got a computer programmer nerd that's working the servers. But they all get their direction from somewhere, and they can't do certain things, just like when you work at any job. And so I think there's a line. I know for certain that there's a center, like an actual cubicle farm, where there's a bunch of employees that sit there and go through the videos, and you know, and I think you probably, you know, different days you get different people, and different people allow different things. You got different managers working different shifts. Sometimes the Illuminati control master is out on his yacht, and you can't get a message through to him to find out whether or not it's okay to allow the video, and so it goes through. And then other times, a video that would never get flagged gets flagged immediately, and you can't put it up, and you're left dealing with the consequences of a copyright violation that's not due, or some other things. So it's like, I've heard rumors about Google being purchased by the CIA, or that the CIA is somehow involved in the actual running of the company. And that's all conspiracy hearsay. There's no way to prove that. But when you look at the tactics, the information gathering tactics, the different styles of critique that they allow people to create these videos that harass you and threaten you, and they don't ban them and stuff. So that to me says it's an overall tactic. Maybe they hired people that used to work at the CIA. or maybe they hired people that used to work at Blackwater Counterintelligence or whatever, and they used those assets to create the same kind of structure, which is CIA, only it's Google.
Yeah, you have to be concerned with that. What I would say to, any YouTubers, a couple of things that I found back in 2008 when I was really getting attacked for releasing the disclosure videos of Planet X that came out of the South Pole Telescope, was that you can use the DCMA complaint process, and actually I was surprised it works pretty well. I was able to stem the tide of the attacks. But one thing that I'm very leery of with YouTube and wouldn't participate in, you see a lot of folks that are doing the paid advertising and with the AdSense revenue. And I have no problem with that. Everybody's got to pay rent. I mean, the only folks that say, gee, if you were really God-fearing whatever, you would do it all for free. And then you say, fine, how about a contribution? And they disappear like a fart in the breeze. But, but if you do the advertising, their AdSense program, and I went round and round about them. They really wanted me to do AdSense, but when I looked at the contract that's involved with enabling that, it makes you extremely vulnerable. If someone's saying that you're stealing their material, you have a process where you can stand and defend yourself. But on the other hand, with the AdSense, the advertising programs, no. You don't even get a fraction of those protections. And so all they need is somebody who just says they stole our material, and boom, they hose your video and can even take your channel. So until YouTube really, extends the same level of protections on advertising, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Well, you know what? I went through this I've got 715 some odd videos, and made in months, by the way. That's a lot of video making. And
yeah,
they offered me to enable revenue sharing, okay? And it's a little button, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about. It's you're offered the opportunity to turn on advertisements on your YouTube channel, and you get paid a fraction of 0.1% per video that's watched or whatever. I don't even know how they calculate it, but and then they give that to you in an account, and once it builds up to $100 in their account, you can cash it out, all right? And so you get paid on your videos. And so they offered me the option to do it. I'm like, oh, this is great. Let me try. So I applied for the AdSense membership, and they turned me down. They sent me a message saying I had to insert some code on my DutchSense.com website. And I saved the email, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. It's just a code saying I won't disclose Google and a bunch of other stuff. And so I put it on my website, and I refilled out the form, and they rejected it again, but didn't give me an answer as to why this time. So I did it one more time, thinking maybe I filled out the form wrong, and they sent me a thing saying you've applied too many times for AdSense. You have to wait X amount of months before reapplying. All right, and so in the meantime, everybody's saying Dutch, you should charge for some kind of T-shirt or sell something to try and make money on your videos, since you can't do that. And I don't do that. I don't sell anything. I don't have anything for sale. If I did, I might try it, but it's just a cost. It takes money to make money, that kind of thing. And so I put a donation button up on my page, and I've relied solely on the generosity of people who like my stuff to make donations, and it's usually like $10 or $15, that kind of stuff. But it adds up, and it's kind of paid the internet bill and helps to offset the rent a little bit, but it's not as much as people think. Especially, even with 10, 15 million viewers, it's like 1/10 of a half of a fraction of a percent that actually donate. I really stand by that. With my other site, Yowza.com, YOWUSA.com, before I really got into doing AdSense and more traditional revenue, just to help support myself to do the work. And, everybody thinks we're some big, great organization. No, it's me, myself, incorporated with a bunch of really great people helping out, like Bill and Susan on the show, and in the town hall, my moderators, and these wonderful people, and they're all like you. They're doing it for love. They're doing it for the species. And they're just out there contributing. And so what I want to say to all of you listeners out there tonight, Dutch, give me address that for your website again. It is www, of course, and it's DutchSense, and that's spelled D as in David, UTCH, SIN as in Nicholas, SE, DutchSense.com. Or you can just go search DutchSense on YouTube, and you will find 100,000 videos that come up, and most likely mine will be at top, hopefully. And you will find out all the information.
Well, for those of you listening out there, next time you go to McDonald's, instead of supersizing your fries, put the change in your pocket, go to Dutch's site, and send it on. This guy is your local hero. So go out there and support him. And oh, you're welcome. No, I want to see you keep on doing what you're doing. You know, it's just coming across your work, and it's just an absolute pleasure for me. And I understand everything that you're up against, because we're up against the same things here. And it's tough. I mean, right now, this show is what's keeping us on the air is Bill Zam. I mean, he's just out there. He's a wizard in what he does. I don't know. It's like, you know, he's got smoke coming out of his head or something. You know, you turn off the lights and he glows in the dark. But, hell, man, he keeps these bastards off my back. I love it.
We like that.
And looks like we have got a caller coming in. You want to take a call?
Definitely.
Okay. And caller, this is Mrs. Corona from Northwest Washington State. Hello, ma'am. You got a question?
Hi there, Dutch. I was calling about the Pacific, or the post-glacial rebound effect, and wondering, in your opinion, what effect it's going to have on the coastline here on the West Coast.
That is a really, really good question. For those of you who are not familiar with the subject, post-glacial rebound effect is a geologic process. It's not conspiracy theory. It's hard science, where the old frozen portions of the North and South Pole have begun to melt. Okay, regardless of what you believe about Al Gore or An Inconvenient Truth or global warming, there is scientific satellite evidence to show that ice is melting and breaking off, and thermal ground temperatures are on the rise in areas that were cold. Now, whether or not that's man-made, I don't even want to get into that debate, but what it shows is that when this melt-off occurs, two things happen. Water flows, of course, towards the sea, and it fills the sea. The combined weight of the water itself weighs down on the entire plate, whatever plate it's on top of, so the Pacific plate or the Atlantic plate or the North American plate, and it causes a deformation process. And it's called the post-glacial rebound effect because after the glacier, the ground rebounds. It comes back up. It's been weighted down by a ton of ice. And when that water comes off, it goes down into the porous structure of the ground, and it expands, just like anything does. And that's how you get a post-glacial rebound effect. Now, what's occurring around the entire planet, I just put a video out on this a day and a half ago. It was showing the entire northern hemisphere of the entire planet Earth has a ring of earthquakes that are occurring. You have to look at it from the North Pole, and you have to do it on something like Earthquake 3D so you can see it plotted out over an entire globe. But when you look down from the North Pole at a graphical representation of where the earthquakes occurred just over the last 7 days, you see from Russia, from the tundra areas of Siberia, all the way around through China, right around through North Korea into Alaska, right around through northern Canada, and back around through northern Europe into Norway. There's a huge amount of earthquakes that are occurring, and it's totally obvious that that's being caused by the thawing and the water weight that's pressing down and raising up these plates. And now, is that the cause of everything? I don't know, but I can tell you that the cause on the West Coast will be, I was just there, okay, and you can see where in past times the plate has buckled, and it's buckled due to several reasons. Sometimes it's seismic, sometimes it's volcanic, but I can pretty much give you a guarantee that there will be a thinking of the western portion of the like where the Olympic National Forest is, for instance. That area is resting on top of a part of the plate that when more water comes to rest on the Pacific plate, it's going to push that area down. It has to. And so I really think if you were to ask me an area in the Pacific Northwest, what will happen, I think that area will sink somewhat. And then further inland, you'll see a raising, but you know, it's like a seesaw. So one part pushes down, the other part pushes up.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, one of the things that really worries me with the trending, particularly with what's happening with losing the ice on the North Pole, how this translates down is to, you know, the permafrost is in Alaska. They're finding problems. All that pipeline, it's built on permafrost. That gets soft. But, I mean, the other part of it is this permafrost melts. We're talking about methane releases that are going to put us into hyper global warming. And that is a real concern for me. And I mean, what are you following in terms of potential methane releases? We've got, you know, we have the subsea. It could rise up from warming oceans, but also in Siberia. So let me know what you think on that one.
Well, I saw an interesting program of at least 2 years ago on basically east of Florida, south of the Carolinas. There's a huge methane deposit that is kicking off just massive amounts of bubbling methane. And it comes up at such a frequency that some experts say that that's what causes the Bermuda Triangle, is that these huge pockets of methane come up, bubbles come up through the ocean, the ship literally sinks in the bubbles because there's so many, and then of course it goes up into the air, an airplane flies through it, the airplane of course sucks it into the combustion engine, boom, you have a huge explosion, and the plane is gone and nobody ever finds anything. The methane is a real problem. There's been a series of earthquakes up in southern Canada, up near Ontario and the Maine border, okay? So right in that area, right by the Great Lakes. And that's at the edge of the North American plate called the craton. The craton is the old unsubducted plate that has never been pulled under in any kind of geologic process. It's always been on top. And right there's been a series of earthquakes. And a viewer sent me the video. It's still on my site. And it's bubbling coming up from the ground. And it's not, moisture going down into the ground causing bubbles to come up. He said it smelled like sulfur. And of course I told him, oh God, you're in an earthquake area, you need to be safe and get out of there because the gas could be poisonous. And what it was a sign of to me is that the area along the edge of the plate where the Great Lakes meet, up to the northeast, is under a amount of stress that's pushing methane up out of the ground. And that's why we're seeing bubbling and earthquakes occurring up there at a higher frequency. There's just a 3.3 or 3.4 in Ontario. Hello?
No, sorry, I was just dealing with Bill on the board there. Well, okay. We've got about 20 minutes left in the show.
Wow.
Let's do this. Time has been flying here. This is amazing. But what I'd like to do is to have a kind of a theory of everything look at this thing. I mean, just take a big step back. Tell us what you think is the causality that is bringing all of this and what we need to do in order to deal with it. But most importantly, where it's going, where you see the greatest dangers, and the big signs that people really need to be tracking when they're looking on the Internet.
Well, there's several competing viewpoints on this, okay? And each is equal worth considering as to the cause, and I haven't made up my mind yet. I know that's just a cop-out answer, but there's, of course, what I subscribe to, and I don't expect anybody to do this. I'm not going to force this on you or anything, but I subscribe to a spiritual worldview. And in the spiritual worldview, you believe there's reasons and causes for certain things that happen in the world. And I think that we're at a time in history where it literally is obvious to anybody who can see that we're at a crossroads for the planet. Whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you believe in Jesus or Hindu or whatever, all these problems are ramping up to a crescendo. They're coming up to a point where we're going to have to acknowledge them at some point and try to figure out what's causing them. And that gets back to spirituality or being a realist and an atheist or whatever. You got to start to look for answers as to what's causing it. Now, could it be an extrasolar planet that's coming in, Nibiru, Planet X? Yes, it could totally be that. It could also be a natural uptick that coincides with the coming in of a planet that doesn't have any effect on us. What if Nibiru flies by? There's no big earthquake, but then a couple months from now we get a big one. There's a lot of different causes for the problems that we're having, and the uptick. If I could name what is causing this uptick, I'd be more famous than I could ever possibly even imagine. It would be, if you came up with this answer, it would be the answer of all answers, which is why is it happening? I can tell you guys this: I believe in God, and I believe that certain things are caused beyond man's control. So could a planet be brought in? Yes, it could be brought in. It could be brought in by just natural forces, or it could be brought in by a higher power. It just so happens that it all coincides with certain other things that have happened and that are happening: a one world order, a one world government. Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. While you've been talking, we've been having some problems and interference with the show, and so I had to bring Bill back in. And but please keep on going. We're getting some disinfo puke hacking. They just want to let us know that they can do it, and that's the way it is.
And this is kind of the most profound part of the show, because it's where you're going to find out. I believe that we are going through a series of events that are unparalleled in world history until now. So we've got certain things that are happening that just when they all happen together, they cease to be coincidences. Coincidences cease to be coincidences when they happen all the time. And that's what I see happening, are a series of strange coincidences that cannot be dismissed anymore. So an uptick in earthquake activity, an uptick in solar activity, strange reports of strange things happening in the sky, weird planetary activity, millions, if not billions, of animals dying all at once. And this is all since New Year's. An unknown number of tornadoes, thousands of people dead across the United States in one 6-month period. And the financial unrest. I mean, the list goes on. And when you add that all together, it almost seems like it's not the end of the world. I mean, if you guys go read the Bible or go read any book of knowledge, it says, world without end. There is not going to be an end of the world. There might be a third of the population dies this way, a third of the population dies that way, but the world itself is not going to end according to my spiritual belief. And that's where we start going over the line. You'll never catch me putting a video out on this subject because my viewers span the entire spectrum. I've got Satanist viewers. I've got atheist viewers. I've got Christian viewers. I've got everybody in between.
Republicans?
I'm sorry?
Just had to do that. You got Republicans too?
Oh, yeah. I've got Republicans. We got them all. You know, here's my thing, guys. I voted for George Bush twice.
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
That was before I found out about the Bohemian Grove, of course. I found out my unplugging experience was in 2004. When I found out, I watched Alex Jones's famous video, Dark Secrets Inside the Bohemian Grove. Up until that point, I was Joe plugged in. I was your average skeptic. I was your worst skeptic. I was the idiot that came onto your video and gave you a hard time without being a paid government agent. I was just a jerk. And so I learned a lot of different things in a short amount of time. And the one that set me down the rabbit hole was finding out that my Republican leaders, the Christians that I supposedly voted for, go out in the woods a year and engage in a sacrifice ritual. Whether it's a human body or not, I don't care. It looks like one. And they take it and burn it before a stone idol, and they put all their cares and worries on it for all the bad stuff they did for the past year onto that body or whatever it is. And then they burn it and go into some weird pagan ritual while they do it, while they wear robes that look like multicolored Ku Klux Klan robes, and they just do it, and they admit it. They admit to doing it. They unabashedly say, yes, we go up there in the woods every year. It's a tradition and all this other stuff. And when you find that out, it rocks the core of what you believe. I believe they were good Christians. Instead, they're out in the woods sacrificing bodies. How much more diametrically opposed can the two sides be to each other? And when I found that out is when everything changed in my life. And since then, it's been, well, now I'm talking on the radio to you about these things.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, I mean, the question, though, is, are the Democrats any better?
Well, you know what? Here's funny. The Democrats.
I'm neither one or the other.
Yeah, no, neither am I. Here's my mom's big-time Democrat, and we get in these debates all the time, which is they go to their own little thing. Okay, there's a woman one, too. There's a woman's thing called the Belizean Grove. It's in Belize, and Sotomayor, the judge or whatever, she was a member of it. And so there's these different sects. The thing in Norway, guys, I mean, I don't even want to go down this road, but the thing in Norway, all the kids were out in the woods in July doing, what were they doing? Well, go look into it. You won't believe it. It's their version of the Bohemian Grove. I'm not kidding. Go look it up. So, you know, when you look at all that together, that's the master thing that's pushing me now is a quest for truth. I've got to find out. I'm from Missouri, and we have mottos for each state here in the United States. And our motto is show me. And I was raised here, and we live by it. We really do. We're like, show me. You know, we won't believe it until we see it kind of thing, doubting Thomas the whole bit. And that's what we are, and that's what's led me on this quest. So I won't believe it unless I see it. If I see it, I'll tell you, and I'll show you where I found it. And that's my philosophy.
I agree. Well, that's it. I mean, and I see a good positive trend. I mean, I really feel like, as one researcher to another, I can remember back around 2005, and between the period about 2005 to 2008, I secretly was, you know, I've always been trying to keep an upbeat message, but there were times when I really wondered if all the bad I was seeing was really going to win. And it wasn't until I really hit it, you know, face to face, that I realized that we are we're going to win, but it's ours to lose as well. And all of the gerrymandering is elites positioning themselves in advance. Like, for example, you look at Svalbard, the seed vault, and you can really backtrack the trail, just like you backtrack. And you go back to years ago, the Anita Hill trial, hearings on the Hill. And you look then what happened with Clarence Thomas. He got through that. He basically becomes not much of a notable justice. But
right.
One thing he does is he was a former lawyer for Monsanto. And as a former lawyer for Monsanto, and then goes into the Supreme Court and writes a 5-4 decision, and I don't think that they should allow 5-4 decisions. I think Supreme Court decisions should be 6-3, not 5-4. I mean, we always get shafted on 5-4s. And it's just something where he wrote this decision, and it was a windfall for Monsanto and everybody else. It was all about the patent office had received an application for patenting life, and they said, we've never done it since the birth of the country, and we're not about to do it now. Clarence Thomas, all right, changed all that. And the first thing that happened was Monsanto et al. Ran out to the, and the government has public archive seed vaults. So that, this is important for maintaining, all different kinds of crops to meet different situations. They had seeds, heritage seeds going back to before the time of the Revolution, all right? Monsanto and these other all just snatched up this stuff, started filing patents left and right. Then on top of that, they, what happens is the way the Supreme Court set it up, thanks to Clarence Thomas, is that family farms could be intimidated and thrown out of business for acts of God. Acts of God. All Monsanto had to do is get a couple of guys up there in a small pud knocker at night, fly over the farmer, drop a couple of handfuls of seeds, wait for the stuff to sprout, and then come out and discover what they had planted from the air. And then all of a sudden, the farmer who never planted that seed is basically given a legal ultimatum thanks to the Supreme Court. You will suck up and kiss Monsanto's tuchus, or we'll grind you and your little farm to pieces. And that is what happened. Well, now we have that. So let's fast forward to Svalbard. Bill Gates, the most successful monopolist in the world, he's the poster child for organizing this. And who's funding it? Monsanto et al. So what does it mean? Is all of the heritage seeds varieties that they're collecting are going to Svalbard. They're going to control it. And then what happens is, after the dust settles, Planet X is gone, and it's time to rebuild. What is going to be the basis of a currency for a new world order? It will be the pure genetic seed stock in Svalbard. And it's going to be real simple for everybody else. Suck up and sign the deal, or you're free to starve to death like free people. Make sense?
You know what we need to make and start offering immediately? A mini seed vault that each person can put in their own house to keep their own seeds of whatever they want for an extended period of time. An explosion, a flood, anything like that. That's just, hey, there's an idea for somebody out there. If you want to go do it, you'll make $1 billion trillion, which is make one that anyone can buy at the store for a cheap amount of money.
Mm-hmm. And actually, it's, you can go out, find local resources. You can find people that are into gardening and this. They know what grows in the area. They know what's going to go in the seasons. There's a lot of expertise that goes along with the seeds. And there are a tremendous amount of local resources. And that's something to do. You can, folks can buy these seeds online. But, that's what I would say to everybody out there is that seeds are more than food. Seeds are freedom. Without seeds, there will be no freedom. And it is just absolutely, absolutely imperative. We're down to just a few minutes left in the show. Take us ahead for the next couple of weeks. What are the things that you're looking at, you're on top of, you're trending, that we need to be really mindful of?
Okay, the things that are trending right now is the storm threat is not let up with weather modification. Chemtrail spraying is actually increasing. I've received several reports of massive spraying, and we're talking dozens of planes in the sky at the same time out on the West Coast. This means severe weather is going to be coming across the United States in the next week. You can expect dozens and dozens more tornadoes. The tornado season did not stop this year. It has continued right through spring, in through the center of summer now, and it's not letting up, and we're going to ramp up here into fall. Fall is another tornado season, and it's going to get real bad here come the fall time. You just wait for fall because it rains the most in the United States in the fall. So if you think it's bad now, wait till October. As for earthquakes, you're looking at a steady progressive uptick. And the pattern that I've noticed is that there's an uptick in volcanic activity followed by an earthquake activity. So we see multiple volcanoes showing activity. We see multiple earthquakes intermingled in with those. So if you live in a fault zone, it's not everywhere in the world, but if you live in a fault zone or if you live in a volcano zone particularly, pay attention. Watch them. If you have to, watch my videos. I know it's going to be painful sometimes, but watch, listen, learn, and most importantly, be prepared. Just have a extra set of in your pocket. Have a bag with your basic needs in it. Have some water and food.
Yep.
Any poor person can prepare for it. Guys, I'm on your budget, okay? I'm on a couple $100, okay? So you're looking at, you can go to the store and just buy some basic necessities that you can survive on for 1 month is what I recommend. Bare minimum 1 month. After a month, well, I mean, if it's Planet X, you're going to want a lot more. But if it's an earthquake in your area where you lose power at the height of a heat wave, well, guess what? You'll have water and food. So that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. Be prepared. It's a cheesy saying, but it's true. And so just be prepared.
It's amazing. There's so much reticence people have about spending the money to be prepared. And it's not a lot of money. But they'll go out and, they'll buy an insurance policy based on the fact that maybe there's a 1 or 2% chance that their house is going to catch fire. Or maybe they're going to buy like a hospital indemnity like Aflac, on the rare possibility that they have an accident, not a natural illness. And so it helps them out a little bit. And these extreme risks, you got to look at what the risks are relative to the cost. People can accept that. And you're talking about they're going to make decisions on a risk threshold that is in 1 or 2, 3% range. And this is going to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year in insurance premiums. Yeah. And yet when they look at this and they see all of the earth changes and everything that's going on, all of a sudden it's like, this isn't worth the price of a Happy Meal at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And it is just an odd thing. It has always been a frustrating thing for me. Does it bother you too?
Oh, it bothers me tremendously. And when you look at, for instance, the scaling back that I've done in my life, if you're like me and you're on a limited budget, I cut my cable package back to bare minimum so I could just get the news, cut anything else out. I reduced my internet connection down to the bare minimum that I could use to upload videos. And, that alone giving me like $100 and something a month. Add that up over the course of a year, that's $1,200 I can put towards the stuff that I really need. And, a bunker, for instance, I'm splitting a bunker, an underground survival pod, with 5 of my friends. We're each throwing down $1,600. Okay, I mean, that's like doable for anybody, even me, all right? So, but you got to cut back on the things that, don't buy that motorcycle or don't, just don't go to McDonald's, eat at home. And over the course of a few months, you'll have enough to throw down with your friends to get the protection that you need for when a giant mob is heading towards you because they didn't prepare, or when a planet zooms in out of nowhere, or when the big earthquake hits and you lose power for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it's going to take them to get the power back to you. There's so many things that could occur that you need to be prepared for that if you just make those little sacrifices now, guys, when the time comes, you'll be like, sweet, I'm the only one who's prepared. And if it doesn't come, guess what? You got a lot of food, you got extra money, and you got a place to go in case a tornado comes.
Yep, that's absolutely it. And staying aware of it, folks, gives you a 24-hour heads up, and that's really, really big. Stop to think about it. Before the San Francisco quake, that was it. It was his drop-dead, smoke-and-gun harbinger, and he knew that that big quake was coming because he was monitoring that geyser, and it went nuts. Now, fast forward from 2004 to today. And we've got a lot more sophisticated information out there. But you got to know how to dig it, how to go into it, how to find it. And if you really got some chutzpah, you share it with the world. And tonight you're going to hear a man who does exactly that. And I'm welcoming Dutch, since YouTuber, to the show. Dutch, welcome to Planet X Forecast.
Thank you.
Planet X Special Report, excuse me.
Not a problem. for having me on, and it's a true honor to get to talk to you on the air. And I hope we can get into some really interesting topics tonight. A lot's going on, and you know what's going on today, so if you want to get into it, we can get right into it.
Oh, man, let's just get right into the dish, you know what I mean? No holds barred tonight, Dutch. No holds barred. And first off, I want to let you know that, and this is a call out to all the folks at our planetxtownhall.com. We've got a large community out there, and it's just growing really fast. And the one thing I was really surprised was when, you know, the request to invite you on the show came from the town hall. And when I announced it, everybody's just really jazzed and excited. I had no idea so many people were following you and so appreciated your work. And once I started getting into it, I can see why. You lay it right out there. It's really clean, and you let people decide for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a tremendous 6 months for me. I started making videos on YouTube approximately 6 months ago, maybe a little bit over. And it's ironic that you mentioned Birkeland and animals, because that's how I started. There was a tremendous die-off of animals around the world. Millions of fish washing up on one shore, shores lined with crabs over in the UK, birds falling out of the sky all over the country. And several of us started to take note of that. Being the animal lover I am, I really was concerned. And that's when I started to put out the videos. And that's how I started to pay attention to radar anomalies that I used to dismiss as just anomalies. And it just so happens that the main animal death story, the one where all these birds died down in BB, Arkansas, and fish washed up in a creek down there by the hundreds of thousands, it turns out there was a strange radar signature above the area the night before. And so in the process of looking at the radar signatures in BB, Arkansas, I saw my first weather modification ring is what I call them now, my first Haarp ring. And so over the course of 6 months, I've had 12 million viewers and 30,000 subscribers. I've been on the news. I've traveled across the country. And I'll break this on your show, is that now the first 5 episodes are done on a TV show that's going to be airing on 3 major networks, international networks. I can't say which ones yet, but that's been finalized, and it's going to be at least 64 episodes. So that's going to be if all things go well. So it really has mushroomed up, and the reason it's mushroomed up is because the number of incidents has increased exponentially, and there's been no one there to actually tell anyone, because everyone gets their news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, et cetera. Some people think they're being slick and getting it from AP or Reuters. Well, there's no difference. They censor the news. They only bring out some news that is disaster prone, and they control that news indefinitely. So Fukushima, for instance, when Fukushima happened, they first beat the fear drum on Fukushima like no other. Okay, they had Anderson Cooper over there standing there with a Tiger counter, and they had Sanjay Gupta explaining the fallout effects of radiation. And then within a week, they're not talking about it at all. And
that's right. So, you know, I remember Sanjay Gupta. He looked like a nervous cat in a room full of rocking chairs. He didn't like being there. He understood, and he wanted to get the heck out of it. And but before we go a little further, I just want to say to my listeners out there, folks, if you're in the virtual chat room, Susan Richards is our moderator there. And if you have a question for the guest, make sure it gets to Susan. We'll do our best to get that answered, and our chat room rules are real simple. Hey, cowboy, hang your shooter at the door, be nice to Miss Kitty, and you'll have a good time. And if not, you will leave the premises feet first. And for those of you who want to call in and talk with Dutch, well, we've got Bill Zam running the switchboard, and his middle name is Thor's Hammer. Get my meaning? Call, be nice, be constructive, and you'll get on, I guarantee. Now, with that, what I'd love to do right now, Dutch, right off the top, because this is a thing that just, when I looked at your work, I mean, this glued me, really glued me. And this is this venting that you detected northeast of Los Angeles. Now, for those of you listening, on the episode page for Blog Talk Radio, I created a playlist with the current videos that Dutch has done on this. And so you can follow up on those later on after the show and actually see how he presents the work. And it's really important. And so just because this is a real current event, so Dutch, take us from how did you find this venting, and, you know, what was the process you went through?
Okay. This is just a recent story for those of you who are just tuning in. It just started on Saturday. And what happened, I was on radar looking at a weather modification ring outbreak that was occurring in the Midwest. And I noticed a signature pop up over Southern California only for one frame, and then it cuts off. They cut the frame. And it said missing panel on my radar display. Okay? And that intrigues me, of course. I have to go look. So I went to the actual NextRad site, which is a government site. You can go pull up the radar, look at an image loop, a current image loop of the area. And when I did that, I saw that there was literally what I thought it was a wildfire at first. In the first video I put out, I said, uh-oh, looks like there's a wildfire in Southern California. And I went over to LA News. I checked all their sites, NBC, CBS, ABC, you know, all the local news sites, and there was nothing about a fire up there. And so I decided to go on Google Earth and see what was there to see if there were any structures or, you know, what could be burning. And when I put coordinates, it turned out it was a volcanic lava field, completely black still. It's still, you know, rough rock with just intermingled, sparsely placed grasses. And I said, oh my goodness, you know, what is this? You know, of course it wasn't, oh my goodness, it was actually, what is going on? And so then I looked more into the area, and I found out it was called the Pisgah Crater Area, and that's spelled Pisgah. And it's all volcanoes. It's nothing but volcanoes right there, and it's the Mojave Desert, which is sand. There couldn't be anything there burning. So then, of course, I have to go pour over the weather charts and see if it's raining there. And you can pull up the precipitation stations there. You can pull up humidity levels, and none of that matched for any kind of precipitation buildup in the area. You're talking Mojave Desert. And so, long story short, I went and pulled the seismic charts in the area, and you can look at all these different seismographs placed all around California. And in the area there's magma harmonics, which is a long period of rumbling shown on a seismograph. And then it cuts off to a baseline, just, you know, straight flat line, and then it kicks back up again to heavier lines. And so you put all that together. I put all that together, and I said, okay, there's an uptick in activity around the world, everywhere where there's a volcano. Mount Etna just erupted. Mount Lokan just erupted twice. You've got Sakurajima over in Japan erupting every day. So I looked in the area. I put two and two together. I put out the video. And within a day and a half, last night at 2 in the morning, the USGS issued a press release response to my videos. And they referenced the YouTube user who pulled up Google Earth. And, I mean, it's me who they're talking about. And they said that it wasn't a hoax. Okay, well, I appreciate that. And it was a misinterpretation of the data, according to John Eichelberger, who's the senior volcanologist for the USGS. And their spokeswoman, Clarice Ransom, said that there's no threat in the area. That was this morning at 2 a.m. Now, it vented twice since then. Since they put that statement out, it has vented twice with a huge, you can go on right now. You guys are sitting, if you're listening live, you can go right now and look it up, and you will see over the last 12 hours at station EYX in Southern California, a massive plume that erupted off the same exact area, and there's no cloud cover. You can turn on visible cloud. It's still daylight. You can see there's nothing. It just erupts out of the ground. And then, same time as those two vents are going, there's a 6.0 that occurred in Baja, California, right south of California, right at the Mexico border. And so a huge earthquake, venting occurs, and here's the USGS saying it's a thunderstorm.
What? Say what? Thunderstorm?
Right. That's what their official explanation is. If you go read the article all the way through, they said that it was a misinterpretation of the data, and it was most likely a thunderstorm. Now, it's just a laugh because it means they didn't watch the other 3 videos that I put out, because I show the precipitation, I show, you know, what it could be, what it couldn't, and it's actually laughable because of what I've gone through with the USGS in the past, which is, I was telling you guys before this started, that they censored thousands of earthquakes off the map in the past several months, anywhere from Alaska all the way down to Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been seeing this for years. I mean, first off, you know, going back to Jim Birkeland, he called Loma Prieta in '89, and he was right. And his thanks for being right was that he was fired. So there's, you know, always this lid, keep the cattle, you know, keep the cattle happy. One of the things that I noticed was that there was an aviation turbulence alert on this. You were showing in one of your videos. Describe that and how it relates to this. Do you think it was part of a twist around that they issue the alert, or something else?
Well, here's what we go through on YouTube. For those of you who aren't big YouTube followers or don't ever go on there, we are held, those of us who report the real news about what's going on are held to a higher standard. I swear to you, we are held to a higher standard than even your newspaper or TV or anyone. And so,
I know. I've got a YouTube channel. I mean, we have similar numbers. We're getting ready to break 14 million on my channel.
That's great, and congratulations. That's a big step to make that many people. You've reached, 2 huge population centers of the world, if you think about it that way. And what I want to point out is that we have a pattern that's occurring. And, I could digress into this for hours, but the pattern that I see occurring is a censorship of the data. And the FAA thing points it out perfectly, which is I went to go pull additional data to prove my point, to say that there's something going on. And the first thing that comes across my head is, hey, you should probably go check the FAA and see if they've issued any flight warnings in the area and see if outdoors, it makes sense. So I went over and checked, and there's a what's denotated as heavy turbulence. And it looks like a bump with 2 lines through it. And it's placed directly over the area where the volcanic plume erupted from. So I made the video, I put it out, I put a link to the thing. Within an hour, it's gone. All the others are still up there all the way across the country. There's a couple of them are still there. And they pulled that one when I put the video out. Now, I can't prove that, but it's just a strange coincidence. Within an hour of me putting the video out, they've got that little bump off there. But it was proof at the time, that a heavy turbulence warning was issued for that area only. And there's no storm in the area because I just pulled the previous data, and it just shows clouds coming up off the ground right in the lava volcanic field off the Mojave Desert.
Wow. Wow. And, I want to ask you, Dutch, we got a question that comes in from the virtual studio from a Seeker 2, and wants to know, has anyone reported picking up a very high frequency or ultra low frequency signals on radio equipment during a Haarp ring anomaly, or even during this?
Not that I know of during this yet. I'm going to have to look into it. It's been a really busy day for me, hundreds of phone calls and having to put the videos out. But I can tell you in the past, for those of you who are on the internet, you can go on to youtube.com/DutchSinse, and that's spelled DUTCHSINSE. And you'll find a video that I put out about a month and a half ago, and it shows a huge outbreak of weather modification rings and what we call scalar squares, which are giant squares that appear in the clouds in precipitation only when you're looking at the radar. And as that was happening, I got a message from a buddy of mine who's a shortwave ham radio operator, and I put out a video asking ham radio operators if they were experiencing interference like my friend was reporting. And they were. It was so bad. There's several websites you can go. They're called web SDRs. And on a web SDR, you can listen to shortwave